Alrighty, back with part 4. Here it is. We're doing it, getting it done. This is part 4, the Y Files, Annunaki Gods from Planet Nibiru, and the Makers of Man. This is... Hey, stop. Now my nose itches. This is the final part. I think I almost said that. I already said that. I don't know what I'm saying right now. There you go. So, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. You can subscribe to the channel if I have any videos that are enjoyable. Click on the bell because of reasons. And then last but not least, if you don't want to do any of that, just go ahead and click the thumbs up button. That helps me. So, video.
The Anunnaki, the sky gods from Nibiru who traveled to the Earth in search of gold, needed to save their planet. And while here, they created the human race as a slave species to mine that gold. Eventually, humans grew too intelligent, greedy, arrogant, and violent. Then they were wiped out in a global flood when Nibiru passed close to the Earth. This story is one of my all-time favorites, and it is a classic. The Ancient Aliens television series is built around this story. But is it true?
Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
I know they do. Almost all the Anunnaki ancient alien story comes from the work of Zecharia Sitchin. His book, The 12th Planet, explained how the story is written word for word in ancient Sumerian texts. His first book was such a hit that he wrote a whole series about ancient aliens and their time here on Earth. Sitchin spent over 20 years studying Sumerian tablets and teaching himself ancient languages. He translated thousands of texts, and a legend was born. So, who was Zecharia Sitchin? A Sumerologist? An archaeologist? A philologist?
What in the name of Anu is a philologist?
A philologist studies languages that are no longer spoken, like Latin, Ancient Greek, Sanskrit, Sumerian, and many others. So, philologist, archaeologist, Sumerologist. Sitchin was none of these. He claimed to have an economics degree from the University of London, though that's never been confirmed. While he was working for a shipping company in New York, he taught himself Sumerian cuneiform. He then visited some ancient sites and started to piece together the ancient astronaut theory. Now, I'm a huge fan of Zecharia Sitchin. I've read all of his books many times, and they're brilliant. But he was wrong about just about everything.
Oh, no.
His translations of Sumerian writing are more interpretations than actual translations. He even gets the meaning of the word Anunnaki wrong.
In the ancient texts of Sumeria, the term Anunnaki means those who from the heavens came.
Yeah, that's wrong. The Ancient Aliens TV show uses Zecharia Sitchin's translation, not the real translation. Anunnaki actually means royal blood or royal seed. Anu was the king of the gods, and his consort was named Ki. The Anunnaki were descended from Anu and Ki. They became the gods in the Mesopotamian pantheon. Sitchin's book was released in 1976. There was no internet. There were no databases of ancient writing and cuneiform. But now there is. Because we now know so much about how the Sumerians spoke and wrote, we also know that Zecharia Sitchin wasn't a very good translator. He got even basic words and grammar wrong. In fact, the title, The 12th Planet, refers to the image on the Sumerian cylinder seal VA-243. On the seal, the sun is surrounded by 12 objects that appear to be planets. Sitchin claims that the Sumerians knew of all the planets in the solar system, plus Nibiru and a few other objects. Now, the truth is, the Sumerians did know about planets, but they didn't know of any beyond Saturn. They didn't have telescopes, and Saturn was all that they could see with the naked eye.
Maybe the Anunnaki told them.
Hang on, I'm getting there. Other things Sitchin got wrong. Not a single Sumerian text mentions a flying vehicle. Yes, we read about them in other cultures. Ancient Indians wrote extensively about Vimana, giant vessels that could soar above the clouds. And in researching this episode, I learned all kinds of interesting things about Vimana that I didn't know. And if you want a full video on that, let me know. It would be a good one. Back to Sitchin. The Sumerians wrote about gold a few times, but not that much. And there's nothing in the text about mining gold to heal the atmosphere on Nibiru. By the way, Nibiru means crossing. Sitchin interpreted this to mean it was a planet that crossed the Earth's orbit every 3,600 years, but that's not what Nibiru was. Nibiru, or the crossing, was often associated with a solstice. It could refer to an object in the sky that indicated a solstice, or it could mean the sun or possibly a star crossing a certain way during a solstice. Sitchin took this idea and ran with it. He interpreted Nibiru to be a planet, but it wasn't. I'm not sure how he came up with the 3,600-year orbit, but if a huge object roared past the Earth every 3,600 years, you'd think there'd be plenty of documentation.
Maybe it was lost in the flood.
Well, now the flood is interesting. Every culture and religion has a flood myth. I think the count is up to 140 and maybe more, and they're all very, very similar stories. Frequently, 8 people are saved, as in the stories of Noah, Utnapishtim, and many others. It's been said that all the flood myths are copied from the others, and that the flood in the Bible is derived from the Epic of Gilgamesh. But when the ancient Sumerians wrote about the flood, even to them, this was an event that happened in their ancient history.
The Younger Dryas.
It could be. I think it probably was. I think all these myths were referring to the same great flood, and they didn't copy each other. I think they all arose independently. The ancient Chinese, Mayans, Nordics, and Polynesians weren't intermingling in ancient times, yet they all tell the same story, probably because it happened. Also, almost as many cultures have a creation myth about a god adding his own essence to clay. The essence could be DNA, and the clay could represent early hominids. Zecharia Sitchin's ancient astronaut theory is considered pseudoscience. His work has been called far worse. So is the story of the Anunnaki and Nibiru debunked? Well, not so fast. Debunkers have been asking for hard evidence, physical proof of the Anunnaki. For thousands of years, the Sumerian cities of Eridu and Ur were myths, but they were eventually found. And in the city of Ur, a tomb was discovered. In the tomb was the skeleton of a queen of the first Sumerian dynasty.
The first queen?
Yep.
That would make her a human Anunnaki hybrid.
Well, according to the legend, it would.
Is she?
Sure looks like it.
Yahtzee!
The ancient Sumerian city of Ur had been lost for thousands of years, but in the early 20th century, it was discovered. In 1927, British archaeologist Leonard Woolley discovered the remains of Queen Puabi. She's queen of the first dynasty of Ur, which, if you believe the ancient astronaut theory, places her very close to when the Anunnaki started creating humans. It's been speculated that Queen Puabi was a human Anunnaki hybrid. Her skull was huge, elongated, and the Anunnaki were described as having skulls just like this. There's currently an effort to have her DNA tested, but that project has been met with some resistance.
Yeah, predictable.
Now, Queen Puabi is not unique. Elongated skulls have been found all over the world. A large number of them have been found in Peru. They're called the Paracas skulls.
Now, let me guess. They're also against DNA testing.
There's a thing that I've heard before where people in some countries will take newborns and they will wrap their head in a particular way, like a tribe or something will wrap their head in a particular way so that because your skull as a baby is soft and it will push in and kind of elongate it. I've also heard where they put things around your neck, not to choke you, but to extend your neck. I've heard some really weird things. So it's possible to, I keep wanting to say to mess with the body, but it's not the word that I'm trying to, or the phrase that I want to get out. Not mutate. You understand what I'm saying? It is possible to an extent.
They're actually not. Their DNA was tested in 2014, and the results were surprising. The skulls date back thousands of years and have DNA only found in people in the Middle East.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Peru is not in the Middle East, is it?
It's not. And listen to this. The DNA from the largest skull has genetics that originate in Mesopotamia.
They're real! Annunaki!
Well, mainstream science doesn't think so.
Mainstream science can go pound.
One of the researchers of the skulls, L.A. Marzulli, believes the skulls belong to Nephilim hybrids. And it's interesting that people with Middle Eastern DNA were in the jungles of South America thousands of years ago. Are they Nephilim?
Yep.
Anunnaki hybrids?
Yep.
I'll leave it to you to decide. Now, we know Sitchin was wrong about the planet Nibiru. But in 2015, Caltech researchers found evidence of a huge object deep in the solar system. It's a planet about the size of Neptune with an orbit so elliptical it reaches far beyond Pluto.
Just like Nibiru.
Yep. Now, there are no photographs of it yet, but it's so large that its gravity is affecting the orbits of objects in the Kuiper Belt. Researchers say there is a 98% chance the object is there.
Yeah, Annunaki.
It was a long-held belief that Homo sapiens' large brain is what made us so intelligent, but a Neanderthal brain was the same size as ours. Now, they weren't simple cavemen. Neanderthals built families, societies, created art, music, and waged organized war. But Homo sapiens eventually wiped out Neanderthals. How? Neanderthals were extremely strong, far more physically powerful than humans, and they had the same sized brain. They should have destroyed us. Why didn't they? In 2013, Homo naledi was discovered. Homo naledi are an extinct species of early humans. They had very small brains, only about 1/3 the size of ours. Yet they knew how to make stone tools. They conducted funeral rituals, which implies they had religion, or some idea of an afterlife, which also implies they had language. They were very intelligent. So if brain size doesn't indicate intelligence, what does? Well, in 2020, a very interesting study was released by scientists at the Max Planck Institute of Cell Biology and Genetics. They identified a genetic mutation that triggered the faster creation of neurons in the Homo sapien brain. The gene is known as TKTL1. Other hominids also had this gene, including Neanderthals, but they all differ from the modern human gene by one amino acid. This small change wouldn't come from crossbreeding or years of evolution. The only time we see a single gene altered this specifically is when that gene is targeted and manipulated with technology, with genetic engineering. By altering this one gene, Homo sapiens are able to grow neurons much faster than any other hominid species, faster by far. For 300,000 years, Homo sapiens didn't change much. They didn't invent or innovate. In fact, Neanderthals were the dominant species on Earth up until about 50,000 years ago. Then something happened. Man suddenly started to create, reason, and invent. Within a few generations, Neanderthals were wiped out, and Homo sapiens conquered the world. And our species has been rapidly advancing ever since. That gene, TKTL1, with just a tiny tweak, acted like a turbo switch in our minds and made us who we are today. Now, you may not believe in the Anunnaki, but you still have to wonder, who flipped the switch? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ.
I mean, it's interesting. Can't necessarily say I believe it, but there's a part of me that wants it to be true. Just because the cool factor of, but no, I don't think it is. Oh, I was sitting here looking at this mouse down here thinking that was that icon, thinking it was me. All right. Well, you tell me what you think. I mean, to be honest, it's... Are the Anunnaki real? Probably not. Safe to say. But is it a fascinating story? Absolutely. Would it shock me if they said, yeah, there's some truth to it? Yeah, it would shock me. And if they said, yeah, there's nothing to it, I'd be like, damn. Okay. Well, this was a little bit shorter. I thought it was going to run the full gamut of hour 5, but it didn't. So, sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. It is bedtime for me now. So until next time, have a good day, have a good night.